Hello there, Bunneh, and welcome to Bunneh's Perspective, the series where I play a game start to finish and provide my personal opinion and insight along the way. Think of a Let's Play series mixed with a game review, but condensed and smashed into one video. In this episode, I'm going to be playing the third installment in the DMC series, Devil May Cry 3. Devil May Cry 3 is an action-adventure hack-and-slash game developed by Capcom and released all the way back in 2005. It was originally developed for the PlayStation 2, but would later be ported to numerous other systems such as the PlayStation 3, PS4, Xbox 360, Xbox One, the Nintendo Switch, and Windows PC. I'm playing the Devil May Cry HD collection on Steam, which comes with an unanticipated downside that I'll get into later. While Devil May Cry 3 is the third installment in the series, it actually takes place before the first Devil May Cry game. Personally, I think the game should have been called Devil Never Cry to avoid all of the timeline confusion, but I digress. Now, I had never played this game prior to making this video, but I remember it releasing to critical acclaim and hearing that it was basically the savior of the game series following the absolute shit show that was Devil May Cry 2. Most players were going from Devil May Cry 2 into DMC 3, so it ended up being a huge breath of fresh air. Oddly enough, I'm actually doing the same thing nearly 20 years later. I just finished my Bunneh's Perspective of Devil May Cry 2 and went straight into this game afterwards, so my expectations are both incredibly low and incredibly high at the same time. Also, if you're wondering why this video is so goddamn long, it's because I've chosen to leave in almost all the cutscenes for those of you who have never played the game before and want to know what's going on in the story. It's a pretty darn good story, so I would recommend watching all the cutscenes along the way, both for the story it's trying to tell and for my little tidbits of commentary along the way. If you enjoy this kind of content on the channel, then please be sure to leave this video a like down below and double check that you're subscribed to stay up to date on all of my latest content. Now, let's get started.
Sorry, not open for business yet. I haven't even picked a name for this joint, and I'm already getting calls. You a customer too? Well, if you want to use the bathroom, help yourself. The toilet's in the back.
Is your name Dante, son of Sparta?
Where did you hear that?
From your brother. He sent this invitation for you. Please, accept it.
Invitation, huh? This party's getting crazy. Let's rock.
Okay, I can fully suspend my disbelief for most of the things that are happening right now, except for how durable that slice of pizza is. Alright, so that cutscene was pretty sick, I'm not gonna lie. It immediately told me that this game is nothing like DMC2, which is fantastic news. The game is giving me a choice of preferred fighting styles right now, which is a pretty sweet approach to take and adds a ton of replayability. Only one style can be equipped at any given time, and it gains experience points along the way by killing enemies. This kind of guides you into using only one style per playthrough, as you don't want to lose experience that you've already gained with a certain style by switching midway through. After checking out a few of the styles, I settle on Trickster, which ends up being the style I stick with for pretty much my entire playthrough. So remember before when I said there were some unanticipated downsides to playing the HD collection on Steam? Well, this is one of them. The game was originally ported from the PlayStation 2 to Xbox Series, then from Xbox Series to PC, but I'm playing this game on my PC with a PlayStation 4 controller. If all of that sounds confusing as hell, you are correct. None of the button mapping displayed on the screen right now matches anything on my controller, which makes for some very interesting gameplay.
What the
Basically, I just hit buttons and things happen. I have tutorials enabled so there's pop-ups on the screen pretty frequently in these early levels. Red orbs are the main currency of the game and are super valuable for buying upgrades and consumables. Different button combinations result in different melee combos and change with whatever weapon Dante has equipped. This keeps combat pretty interesting. It's a large contrast from the ranged weapon spam of Devil May Cry 2, although there can still be a bit of that along the way.
I can already tell. Looks like this is gonna be one hell of a party!
Just like with the previous DMC games, I'm given a letter grade at the end of the mission. It tallies up things like mission time, orbs collected, style points, damage, and items used. The higher the letter grade, the larger the bonus of red orbs I'm given at the end, so it's in my best interest to do the best that I can. Mission 2 begins with a cutscene.
Damn it! You guys totally wrecked my shop, and I haven't even named it yet! You're gonna pay for that. You all have enough to cover all this!
There's no doubt about it, the combat in DMC3 is fun and extremely challenging. Even these low-level missions at the beginning of the game have their challenging segments, which you'll be experiencing with me very shortly. The game teaches me that I can evade attacks with this confusing combination of buttons that doesn't match my controller. While this is useful information, it's kind of worthless because of the fighting style that I chose. Trickster allows me to evade attacks with a different key binding and looks much sweeter, so even though I experiment with this default evade system briefly, I quickly forget about it in favor of my fighting style. After weeding through hordes of demons on the streets outside of Dante's shop, a short cutscene plays showing a badass looking Reaper demon skirting across the rooftops towards me. This thing is tough, to say the least. It hits like a fucking truck, and no matter where I move or how I dodge, its scythe always seems to scrape me. Needless to say, I fail my first attempt, which means I have to refight all of those demons that I killed before just to get back to the Reaper fight. Now this time around, it's neck and neck with both of our health pools being extremely low, but ultimately I fail again because he cheated! We don't even talk about the third attempt. No, I don't want to switch to easy mode, goddammit!
disappointed?
While it is frustrating to get my ass kicked this many times by a near 20-year-old game, it's an absolute breath of fresh air coming from DMC2. I feel challenged and engaged in this game at pretty much all points in time. I feel rewarded when I make stylistic fighting choices, and punished when I fail to avoid an attack or just spam buttons. That difficulty and challenge makes these boss fight victories so much more rewarding, because I feel like that I've had to learn and overcome an enemy's moveset to defeat them, which I did on the 4th attempt, so fucking shove it, Reaper!
It's been nearly a year since we last met. Where does the time go? No doubt you've got some fun planned for me. Right, Virgil?
The mission ends with a letter grade of A, which is really surprising considering how sore my ass is.
Arkham.
Well, doesn't it excite you? The Negru has revived. The Great One, who once ruled this earth as the medium between the human world and the demon world. Isn't it a magnificent view? The greatest minds of their time, those who revered evil, constructed this glorious edifice. Now, after 2 millenniums of confinement, it can at last fulfill the purpose for which it was intended.
That's none of my concern. Did he have it?
Of course. He's taking good care of it. After all, it is the only memento left from the mother you both lost.
But he has no idea of its true power.
I found it.
Before Mission 3 begins, I hop into the store menu to check out a few things. I knew about the dash ability with my Trickster style, but apparently I can run on walls too? That's pretty sweet. I cycle through a few of the Rebellion upgrades to see what's available, but ultimately I decide to wait on purchasing anything because I figured that I would be unlocking some new weapons in the near future, and I didn't want to waste any red orbs. When the mission begins, I walk backwards towards the camera and load into a small street section outside of Dante's shop again. There's a bunch of enemies standing in here, so I figured that maybe this section held some kind of secret items or hidden rooms. I don't know, but I want to look. Long story short, it didn't, so I moved on. Shortly ahead, a cutscene triggers showing these two robotic vagina faces dropping out of the sky and shooting lasers at me. While the term vagina face sounds like a poorly thought up childish insult, I think it's rather fitting. The game tells me about kick jumping off of surfaces to gain more height, and I put it into immediate use to close the gap on these things. They go down reasonably quick once I get to them, but the other mobs in the area makes it kinda tough to focus fire. After everything is dead, I spend a moment jumping around like a maniac looking for secrets, but alas I don't find anything and simply continue on. As I load into this bar, a blue barrier appears blocking the path ahead, but more importantly this sawed-off shotgun on the wall. I want that shotgun. The game informs me that solving puzzles will unlock blue barriers and killing all enemies in the area will unlock red barriers. Why do these barriers appear?
Nobody knows.
I spend a moment enjoying the PlayStation 2 era rigid body destruction before eventually finding this demonic-looking wheel behind some slot machines. I recognized this type of thing from the other DMC games and knew that I had to smack the shit out of it, which unlocks the barrier and allows me to claim my sweet reward. The shotgun was by far one of my favorite weapons in the first two games, so I was pretty stoked to get this early on. I load into the next room and find myself in what seems to be a strip club, minus all the things that actually make a strip club awesome, but filled with all the things that would make a strip club terrible. By that I mean there's no naked chicks and the place is full of demons.
What the
The game tells me about style rankings, but I'm already up to speed on things. I was excited to try out the shotgun for the first time, only to find out that it's pretty shitty. It doesn't seem to have near the damage output, the range, or the crowd control effectiveness like the shotguns from the first two games. You can still knock opponents down if you're really close to them, but only if they're not in melee animations, which, let's be honest, is most of the time. There were so many times during these fights where I full sent a shotgun blast because I was reasonably certain it was going to interrupt and knock them down, only for it not to do that and I take damage instead. I actually end up using a Vital Star here because I was getting my ass kicked so badly and didn't want to restart the fight on the last few opponents. I find a blue orb fragment sitting up high on this ledge. Similar to the other games, collecting 4 of these will increase Dante's maximum health pool, so it's in my best interest to collect as many as possible. I see something glowing red up on this ledge and hop up for a better look. I'm not exactly sure what to do with this, so naturally, I just swing at it like a lot. I come to find out that these statues hold blue orb fragments, and you have to reach a certain style rank with a specified weapon in order to break it. This statue only required a style rank of B, so it was actually pretty easy to get, but later statues would end up being much more difficult. This little golden statue acts as an in-mission store to buy upgrades or consumables. These things always seem to appear right before a boss fight in the previous two games, so I reasoned that it was also probably the case here. I buy a small Vital Star and break down to buy 2 upgrades for the Rebellion Sword. Stinger was relatively cheap and would allow me to close gaps a little easier, and Drive sounded awesome but was quite expensive. Stinger is this sweet little short-range charge ability, while Drive is this chargeable shockwave attack. While it looks sweet, it's fucking worthless. The charge-up isn't too bad, but the execution of the ability takes way too long. I feel like every time I tried to use this ability, I just ended up getting hit and taking damage where I otherwise wouldn't have. But the damage is done now, so there's nothing left to do but to carry on. My wayward son.
Leave now, mortal! The likes of you are forbidden in this land! You are powerless, are not worthy to set foot here!
Wow. I've never seen a talking mud before. You know, in a dog show, you definitely take first place.
You ugly human make a mockery of me?
Easy, Fido. How about I take you for a walk? Come on, puppy. Let's go.
You will regret this, you worm!
It's showtime. Come on.
Alright, so this fight is really hard, and I came ill-prepared. By that, I mean I suck at this game. I approached the fight pretty confidently at first, and noticed that attacking certain sections of the dog's body will shatter the ice armor surrounding that part, but for the life of me, I can't ever seem to directly target the section I want to target. While I started out pretty strong, one of this asshole's attacks does about 30% of my maximum health, so it's a really easy fight to lose.
Jesus Christ.
I put that Vital Star to use pretty quickly in the fight, and he's red. Why is he red? I didn't know what this meant when it happened, and I still don't know what this means in editing. What I do know is that this Stomp attack will send an icicle straight up your asshole, or at least that's what it did to me.
Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah, and his breath will freeze you to death. Oh yeah, and don't get too aggressive, even if he's like a sliver of health from death, because he will bite your head off. And shower you with icicles. And freeze you to death again. Okay, maybe I should try a different tactic. I decided to check out the Royal Guard fighting style, thinking that blocking and retaliating attacks might be the way to victory here. I think it worked on his one attack, but then he followed up with his paw swipe and killed me anyways. So I decided to switch to the Gunslinger, thinking that range DPS might be my way to victory. Okay, maybe not. I do find this weird positioning during the next encounter, though, where I'm able to shoot him in the face repeatedly, and he just kind of sits there and takes it. I thought that maybe I could just cheese this to victory, but he throws an ice attack out, which seems to reset his abilities, and the fight's on again. After countless attempts and many ice-related deaths, I eventually defeat Cerberus, and a cutscene plays out.
You are not human, are you?
Who knows? I'm not even sure myself.
Regardless, you have proved your strength. I acknowledge your ability. Take my soul and go forth. You have my blessing.
Too easy.
Defeating Cerberus unlocks Cerberus, which if you happen to skip that awesome cutscene is just a pair of icy nunchucks. These things end up being one of my main melee weapons for most of the game. They're extremely fast, have great damage output, solid gap closers, and some pretty sweet combos to boost my style ranks during fights. Before the mission ends though, one more cutscene plays out.
Are you going to the party? What's the hurry? Didn't you get an invitation?
Okay, wait, that's not how physics works.
This just keeps getting better and better.
The mission ends with a C, which was fully expected.
Looks like we have an uninvited guest.
Is that so?
A human. A woman.
I'm afraid I should ask the uninvited one to leave. That is what you want. Actually, I happen to be acquainted with that woman. A storm is approaching.
Before Mission 5 begins, I switched back to the Trickster fighting style because I still prefer it over other fighting styles I had tried out. When the mission begins, this short cutscene plays showing a large dilapidated tower that I'm stuck in. The game teaches me about the in-game map that, just like the previous two titles, I find immensely useless. I glance at all the combos that Cerberus has to offer and try a few of them out before moving on. It feels good. It feels real good. The door is blocked by crimson flames, and if I know anything about Devil May Cry at this point, it's that I have to go to a place and do a thing to unlock a thing. I spend an embarrassing amount of time bouncing around looking for secrets and hidden items before finally feeling content and moving forwards. There's a bunch of enemies guarding this hallway, just begging to be nunchucked. It feels good! It feels real good! Upon loading through this doorway, a short cutscene plays showing a glowy object, a spinning wheel of some sort, and a vagina faces her back. Great. These things always seem to hit me. I dodge, and it still hits me. How does that work?
Nobody knows.
Anyways, there's a lot of enemies here, but once they're all defeated, the barrier drops and I'm able to explore. The glowy thing is still locked behind the cage, and this spinny wheel says that I need the will of a thunderstorm and it will bestow the soul of steel. So many riddles. Loading into the next doorway, I come across a pretty neat mechanic. There's an elevator in the center of the room with one of those demonic wheels to activate it, but the statues on the elevator weigh it down and prevent it from moving. The solution's pretty obvious, but I find this red orb dispenser in the corner that's just
Fucking delicious.
Anyways, I take out all the statues, smack the wheel, and ride the elevator upwards. It puts me in a room with another locked red barrier, and I have to fight my way out. Now, I'm coming into this fight with some pretty low health, and as I established with you earlier on, I suck at this game. Even though I try my best here, like a broke hooker on rent day, I fall to my knees pretty quickly. This means that I have to re-navigate the entire tower from the bottom floor, through the hallway, through the room with the glowy thing, and back up the elevator just to get back to the point I had progressed to. Luckily, I successfully took out all the enemies this time and unlocked the door. I had a sneaking suspicion that these pipes above me held some kind of secret, and I was right. Upon loading out of here, the camera pans around this whole tower and reveals this little panel, which I'm guessing is my next objective. The game is never very clear about this stuff, and I never feel like I'm actually solving puzzles on my own accord. Rather, I'm just finding things, using those said things, and repeating the process. For instance, the only reason I know I'm supposed to be here is because of the red barriers, as otherwise, I don't know if this is correct or not. The panel on the wall tells me to steal thy soul, whatever that means. So I walk across this tiny bridge and it collapses on me.
Do it! Just do it!
Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday you said tomorrow, so just do it! Make your dreams come true!
I actually end up getting a stylish rank during this fight, and was starting to feel pretty good about how I was handling the nunchucks, despite how much health I lose. After all of the enemies are killed, a portal appears and takes me back up to the top where the red barrier breaks apart. I thought to myself, but what if I jump back down into the hole? So I did, and it was the same group of enemies with no notable reward. Fuck me.
Just do it!
After defeating them and loading back through the portal, I walk through the door I unlocked and watch this short little cutscene. Alright, so there's this giant worm, centipede thing, flying through the area and different holes scattered around. It's basically invulnerable to range damage, but before I can even try melee out, it shoots me in the face with a bunch of purple lasers and I die. Round 2 starts with me at full health, and at least I know what to expect this time. I spend a minute trying to figure out the best way to melee this thing, because doing it from the ground wasn't very effective. I figure that I need to get onto its back somehow, but there's not many areas to do this at. I'm able to run across this wall to avoid its laser attacks and drop onto its butt from the platform above. Melee is definitely the move here, but before I get much damage in, the worm does this barrel roll and knocks me off. Anyone who has watched my Bunneh's Perspective of the first and second Devil May Cry games knows that I absolutely hate the parkour in this series, and they insist on incorporating it everywhere. The fixed camera positions make it really hard to judge distance, height, and velocity, so trying to land on a moving, writhing worm flying through the air is damn near impossible. The fight itself is fairly easy, and I'm not really concerned about losing it on the second time, but the mechanics themselves are really clunky and tedious. I feel like I spend a solid 2 minutes just trying to finally land on its back, only to deplete about 5% of its health. After dozens of attempts at landing onto its back and meleeing it down, I finally finish off the boss and watch it disintegrate into pieces across the floor. This unlocks a nearby door for some reason, and I'm greeted with a camera angle of Dante that is way too close for comfort. I load into the next room and loot the astronomical board, which is an item that is too damn good for spaces. One would think that there would be a space between the words astronomical and bored, but one would be incorrect.
There's no need to use violence, devil boy. Oh, wait. Better listen to what I say, lad. This tower here is very sturdy. You see? Your tricks will do no good. No good!
Zip it, or I'll pierce that big nose.
That could be a problem. Just hear me out. You've got nothing to lose, right? My name is Jester, and I know a thing or two about this place. That thing there is a power generator for this entire sector. In order to open the door, you need to apply a little something to it first. Do you know what that is, kid? Or is that too difficult for you?
Get to the point, or do you want to keep on dancing?
Actually, I prefer a sword to be my partner. May I have this dance, my lady? Bingo! That is what the something is. Remember that, kid. Write it down on your hand if you don't trust your head.
I see. Thanks. You still piss me off, though.
The mission ends with a B, and I'm okay with that. Before Mission 5 begins, I buzz through the weapon upgrades for Cerberus, but refrain from purchasing anything just yet. I need to be cautious with my spending in case I need the red orbs for consumables, or if I find a better weapon that I want to upgrade.
Thanks for destroying the luck for me, devil boy! And welcome to hell! Please accept my gift. Don't be humble. Just take it. After all, we're buddies, aren't we?
Well, isn't that special? To be honest, I was expecting something a little better than this.
Alright, so these things are annoying. In order to kill them, I have to pump them full of lead first, which turns them into stone, then I can close the gap and finish them off. While this sounds simple in nature, there's dozens of these things, all attacking extremely quickly, and oftentimes from angles that I can't even see because of the fixed camera. I get hit. Like, a lot. And eventually it whittles me down, and I die. So I try again, and I die. Fuck me! Eventually I stumble my way through this fight, and a portal spawns on the ground. Walking onto it loads me into a boss fight arena where I have this showdown against this annoying Jester character. I'll be honest, this fight is pretty easy, which is a stark contrast to literally every other fight in the game. Melee definitely deals the most damage to him, but there's only small windows of opportunity to close the gap and damage him down. He teleports pretty often, and then he spawns on these bouncing ball things and gains a good bit of damage reduction from all forms of attack. Other times he fakes me out with being there while not actually being there, and does this funny little jig to dodge my bullets. When I do actually reach him though, I fucking destroy him! Even though the fight is annoying sometimes, it's pretty entertaining. I mean, the devs definitely had fun with this one.
Oops.
Okay, was the ass slapping necessary?
Necessary?
I leave the boss fight area and progress up this confusing tower towards the little pedestal. It says that I use the astronomical board, but this time it has a space between the two words, confirming that there should indeed be a space here, and the first encounter was a typo. Get your shit together, game! This prompts a short cutscene showing gears turning, walls moving, and this little glowy thing spawning in the center of the tower. With those walls out of the way, I'm able to loot the Vajura. No clue what this thing is, but I'm guessing it's important. Next, I get lost. I have no clue where to go or what to do. Keep in mind, real-life days are passing between me completing these missions, so things that might seem obvious to you as a viewer, I've completely forgotten about. Eventually, I rediscover this little lever wheel thing, jam that trident into it, and kick the shit out of it to activate it. This lifts that giant cage surrounding this shiny object, which ends up being the Soul of Steel. I'm guessing it's important. But this is Devil May Cry, which means a red barrier and boatloads of enemies. Honestly though, I don't mind. Combat is fun, rewarding, and engaging. I unlocked the red barrier, and now that I've acquired this Soul of Steel, I'm able to walk across this chasm that I fell into before. There's a statue against the wall that requires a weapon that is icy cold to the core, which implies that I have to use Cerberus on it. I combo the shit out of it and receive a blue orb fragment for my troubles, which nets me enough fragments to convert into a full blue orb. I use the Soul of Steel in this giant doorway and walk inside to find this secret mission against the wall. The goal is to defeat all of the enemies without taking any damage, and let me tell you, this was harder than it sounds. All of the enemies are those ranged vagina faces, and they're deadly accurate. I failed the mission quite a few times, but finally nailed down the strategy of never stop moving. This completes the mission and nets me another blue orb fragment. With the secret mission complete, I smack the piss out of this demon wheel and activate the elevator in the center of the room. A bunch of enemies start falling from above, and I have to fight for my survival while the elevator runs its course. In the middle of the fight, though, I use a trickster dodge to avoid an attack and slip right off the edge. And then I do it a second time. And then I get knocked off for a third time, but the fourth time is a charm, and I go out swinging with a stylish rank. I find some red orbs high up in the ceiling and progress along this walkway near the edge of a tower. Destructible objects are never safe around me when they hold the sweet nectar of red orbs, so you're damn right I took them all out. I buy a small vital star from the shop and load through the door to trigger a cutscene.
Look, brother, it's been ages, but we finally have company. I see that. We must entertain our guest. You're right. We have to be gracious hosts. What should we do? How do I know? We need to come up with something. Brother, our guest is sighing. Sigh? What is sigh? Well, a sigh is when...
Enough already! How long are you two gonna keep carrying on like this? In case you didn't get the hint, I'll spell it out. You're a guest. Wants to go through. Got it?
Our job here is to guard this pool. That's right. We cannot let you pass.
Alright, so now I'm going up against these two bosses at the same time. Now, I've never fought these guys before, but my gamer instincts immediately kick in, and I speculate that I should probably damage them down evenly to keep their health bars relatively the same. Easier said than done, though, when they flip around like ninjas and Naruto run their way towards me every chance they get. Not to mention they block a lot of attacks, so most of my damage output is negated. When I do find an opening on one of them, I can dish out some decent damage, but the other one is glued to my ass, just wrecking me. I decide to pop that small vital star I bought when I start getting low on health, and while I knew that finishing off this one guy was a mistake, I took my opening when I had it. Unfortunately, my speculations were correct, and when one boss dies, the remaining boss picks up the other one's sword. This buffs his damage and blocking capabilities, and given that I was already low on health, I don't last long. The second time around, I leave the one boss at a near-death state while I go on an absolute train on the other boss. My goal is to get them both as low as possible before I finish off one, and the remaining one dual-wields both weapons. This strategy works, and I don't hesitate to play aggressively here to finish off the fight.
Wait! Yes, wait! We have been waiting for a long time! Yes, a very long time. For someone stronger than us. Someone who can control us. My name is Agni. And my name is Rudra. You shall take us with you. We could be a great help to you.
Okay, but on one condition.
What is it? Name it!
No talking.
Fair enough. As you wish. Impressive.
No talking. Good.
The game rewards me with Agni and Rudra, a set of dual-wield swords with the power of fire and air. I have to wait until the next mission to equip them, but these swords become one of my favorite weapons in the game, and I use them pretty much the whole way until the end. I also received a level up on my Trickster attack style, which unlocks the Sky Star Air Dodge and the ability to double dodge while on the ground. This was actually a massive improvement in movement for me, and opened up a lot of new opportunities during combat. The mission ends with a B, and that's just fine. Okay, wait a second. As far as I know, this chick is 100% human. Google even confirms it, and everyone knows that if it's on the internet, it has to be true. The point is, all of this cutscene is ridiculous. I can suspend my disbelief for characters like Dante or Virgil because they're half demon and can do extraordinary things as a result, but she can't. Or at least she shouldn't be able to. I think she's a cool character, I think she's a badass, but she should be dead. I mean, she fired a missile directly into the ground 4 feet from her face. How the hell is she alive? Before Mission 6 begins, I swap out Rebellion for Agni and Rudra to give them a try. Like I said before, these two swords end up being one of my favorite weapons in the game, so you'll be seeing them a lot. Up ahead, I find some weird-looking alien laser beam thing aimed at a doorway, and presumably I have to find a thing to do a thing, as is the DMC way. I load into a room called the Chamber of Three Trials, and this panel begins to explain that passing all of the trials unlocks one's true potential. The panel to Trial 1 says that I have to use my lifetime experience, from the crawling infant to the man standing tall, and finally the old man leaning on his cane. It sounds like a neat puzzle of sorts, but upon loading through the door, I find myself in a room full of doors. The only difference seems to be the amount of red dots positioned above each doorway. There's no text, there's no secret hieroglyphic, just dots. Given that the first door I walked out of had only 1 dot, I reasoned that the next door should probably have 2 given the trial's cryptic riddle. This was wrong. I don't know why it was wrong, but it was. As punishment for my stupidity, I get locked into a room and forced to fight a bunch of enemies. Once they were all dead, I wanted to reset the puzzle, which I reasoned would be through the door with only 1 dot. Now I did get this part right, and after carefully considering my options again, I decided to go through the door with 4 dots. This was correct. I'm not sure why it was correct, but it was. So I reasoned that maybe I just keep going through the doors with 4 dots. This was incorrect. Fuck me. I reset the puzzle again, going through the door with 4 dots, then reasoned it has to be the door with 3 dots, which was wrong. Fuck me. The real combination here ends up being the door with 4 dots, then the door with 2 dots, then the door with 3 dots. Why?
Nobody knows.
I'm awarded the Essence of Intelligence, although this feels more like a jab than a reward. The next trial is described as the Onslaught of Obstacles, which sounds fucking terrible, but here we go. It's basically a long chamber of spiky death traps designed for the sole purpose of making this game slightly shit. Somehow I managed to avoid every single one of them though, so joke's on you, game. I'm awarded the Essence of Technique for my flawless efforts, but nothing is ever free. Trial 3 tells me to light all of the crests to suppress the evil spirit's rage. This sounds simple enough, but what the game doesn't tell me is that the enemies are invincible until I do so. I would think that rage and invincibility are two completely different things, but I guess that's why I'm not the one adding words to the dictionary. Despite my best efforts. Basically, I have to activate both of these demon circles to dissipate the enemy's shields so I can actually damage them, but by the time I figure this out, my health is already too low. It doesn't help that these motherfuckers can Michael Jackson slide 20 feet across the ground with their scythes. I mean, what kind of bullshit was that? The second time around goes just as terribly, but you look me dead in the eyes and tell me you would do better against teleporting Grim Reapers. Anyways, the third time is the charm, and I'm awarded the Essence of Fighting for my dedication. Once again, this feels like a slight jab instead of a reward, but I'm gonna roll with it. I head back into the room with a giant alien laser and plug in 2 of the essences to activate it, which blasts through the rubble. Why was this laser aimed conveniently at a pile of rubble in front of a door?
Nobody knows.
Now that was only 2 of the essences though, so I decide to interact with the laser one more time and use the third one, which plays out this cool little animation and rewards me with a ranged weapon called Artemis. Now this thing sounds awesome, but I assure you it's not. More on that later. I head through the doorway and find a statue against the wall that requires my dual-wield swords to damage. Sometimes it's really challenging to land all the different combinations a weapon has to offer, and these statues only seem to get harder as the game progresses. Eventually I become stylish enough to get the reward though, and I progress ahead to trigger a cutscene.
Well, well. You've grown stronger.
Go to hell.
You point a gun at me? Your own kin? Your dear papa?
The only family I ever had was my mother. And she's dead!
You break my heart. After all, it was I who gave you your name. My darling daughter.
The mission ends with a B, for the record.
Well, this is my kind of rain. No wonder the sky looks so funny today.
Let me go!
Let you go? But it would be a waste if you ended up as just a pretty stain. Here I am trying to help you, and you show your thanks by shooting me? Whatever. Do as you please.
So he's a demon too.
Okay, wait a second, so she didn't know he was part demon? That means that she would have just straight up murdered a dude in cold blood. One that was trying to help her. It's getting really hard to cheer you on, lady.
I'm beginning to think I've got rotten luck with women.
Before the mission begins, I replace my shotgun with Artemis and purchase 2 upgrades for my dual swords, one of which allows me to double jump with them equipped. Artemis is basically a chargeable laser that can bounce between enemies when fired. It's similar to the Nightmare beta weapon in the first game, but much shittier. I didn't know this yet, of course, but I would find out soon enough. I find some red orbs high up in the archways above and progress through this doorway that leads into a tower of jump pads. I drop down to the bottom and find myself inside of the library, only to get locked inside by a blue barrier. There's a bunch of statues located around the room that move around in strange patterns and attack every now and then. I run around smacking all of them until they're no longer blue, which apparently solves the puzzle. I'm given an orichalcum fragment as a reward, which is just a thing to do a thing. This unlocks the blue barrier, and I exit the library to progress back up the jumpy tower. I find a vial of holy water in the corner, which is a great oh shit button to have. I honestly have no idea where I'm going or what I'm doing, but I'm still managing to find red orbs in this blue orb fragment, so I think I'm doing something right. In this hallway are a bunch more of those stone statue chess piece enemies. These things are really prominent from this point forwards in the game, and they're honestly some of my least favorite enemies. They're not particularly difficult or interesting to fight, they're just kind of bleh. I find a small vital star on the other side of this metal fence and stumble across these two stone pillars. They're just things that require things. I load into the next room and get trapped inside by a red barrier, which means combat time. While messing around with Dante's controls, I discover that I can swing around these candlesticks like a gymnastic stripper, which is really entertaining and completely unnecessary. A short cutscene plays out showing a new type of enemy that can spawn other enemies with this weird sarcophagus thing. I figured the Artemis would be great here, given how many enemies were clustered together, but alas, the damage is just shit and it takes way too long to charge up. I want to like this thing, believe me, but it's just not good. I stick to the good old-fashioned cold steel to deal with all these enemies, which results in this shiny thing dropping onto the ground and unlocking the door. This item is called the Siren Shriek, which is just another thing to place inside of a thing to do a thing. I find a statue shortly ahead that requires a technique imbued with magic essence, but I have no idea what that weapon would be, so you win this time, statue. Shortly ahead, I find a spot to slap that piece of orichalcum fragment into, which activates the tower's elevator system and allows me to return towards the bottom of the tower. I had zero fucking clue as to why the game was taking me back here, but after running around for a minute, I come across this inaccessible doorway covered in flames, and that's apparently what the Siren Shriek was for. I never would have figured this out on my own, so I'm glad the game just auto-uses things for me. I find a gold orb against this side wall, which is basically just a self-revive if I happen to die during a fight. I kill a bunch of enemies and walk through this doorway into an extremely claustrophobic room. When in doubt, attack aggressively. See? It always works, except in daycares. Or churches. I smack the shit out of this demon wheel against the wall, which drops a ball. Thank God, because I've been waiting for that to happen. I didn't know what to do with this thing at first, so as before, so is now. Attack aggressively, which once again works out and nets me the crystal skull. If it's anything like the movie, these fucking demons can have it back. The door locks and I have to fight off a bunch of enemies, which lasts all of about 2 seconds when I get double penned by 2 Reaper scythes. Second time is the charm though, and I unlock the barrier with my fighting prowess. I take the elevator back up the tower because I feel like that's what I have to do, and I get locked into this room for the second time. This time though, a Reaper boss spawns after I defeat all of the normal enemies, and while these guys are never easy, they're not nearly as difficult as they were the first time that I fought them. One might call that an improvement in combat skill. I call it pure luck, because I'm still almost fucking dead. I leave the chamber and rediscover these 2 pillars from before that I completely forgot about. Wait a second, this pillar has a blue skull in it, but this one doesn't! I bet I have to use the thing that I found by using the thing on the thing that I got from the thing by using the thing! I could keep going with this, but it would require a lot of editing and I'm really lazy. Anyways, I slap the skull into the slot and the door opens. Outside, I find a delicious red orb dispenser and walk along this narrow walkway in the full moon's light. The moving tapestries were really a nice touch here. I approve. I purchase a large vital star from the store, anticipating that the next door I walk through might be a boss fight, and after a tedious walk to the top of the tower, I trigger a cutscene.
You showed up.
You sure know how to throw a party. No food, no drinks, and the only babe just left.
My sincerest apology, brother. I was so eager to see you, I couldn't concentrate on preparations for the bash.
Whatever. At any rate, it's been a whole year since we last met. How about a kiss from your little brother? Or better yet, how about a kiss from this? This is what they call a heartwarming family reunion, eh?
You got that right.
Alright, so the fight with Virgil is a go, and I'm dead. Fuck me! The game prompts me to use that gold orb that I received, which I initially hesitated against, but opted to use because I didn't want to walk back up here if I didn't have to. Virgil is tough, to put it lightly. He's incredibly fast, parries attacks frequently, and can dish out some absolutely crazy damage if I'm not careful, which, let's be honest, I'm not. Every now and then I can catch him between animations and stun lock him with some combos, but the rest of the time I just get my ass kicked. Even when he parries my attacks and I dodge his follow-up, it still almost always hits me. At one point he hits me with only a sliver of my health remaining, and while I hated to waste it, I felt that a small vital star was necessary here given how low I had him. Somehow I actually did manage to defeat him on my first attempt, if you ignore that gold orb that I used in the beginning.
Why do you refuse to gain power? The power of our father, Sparta.
Father? I don't have a father. I just don't like you, that's all.
Foolishness, Dante. Foolishness. Might controls everything. And without strength, you cannot protect anything. Let alone yourself.
Finally have it.
Yes. Now the spell Sparta cast will be broken. I see a devil inside you has awakened as well.
Wait. We should leave. For the moment we have all that we need.
The mission ends with a C, and I'm surprised it's not worse. So Mission 8 begins inside of the stomach of that giant flying whale thing. The game informs me that I've officially unlocked the Devil Trigger ability for Dante, which allows me to transform into his devil form for a short time. Devil Trigger heavily boosts Dante's damage and provides some passive health regen. This was actually huge because it's like the only other way to heal up in the game aside from Vital Stars or Green Orbs. In order to progress throughout this level, I have to run around and slash all 5 of these weird, spiky, cyst-looking things, with each one causing a tusk to move out of the way of this doorway. Why?
Nobody knows.
I find the second one on a ledge by a pirate ship and decide to drop down below to investigate the ship a little bit closer. Inside, I find a secret mission with the objective of ride the elevator to the top. This sounds simple enough in theory, but I promise you it's not. Like most moving things in this game, I have to slash this demon wheel to activate it. Enemies start dropping from above, and all of their attacks seem to have increased knockback range because they throw me all over the place. To top it off, all of them have that purple invincibility buff, so I can't even kill them. If too many of them pile on the elevator, it becomes overweight and drops. Since I can't kill any of them, my only option is to kite them around and attempt to knock them off the elevator while not getting knocked off myself. To say I struggled here is an understatement. I get my ass kicked in my first attempt, and while the second attempt was a bit of an improvement, I ultimately didn't have the knockback power to keep them at bay, so I died again. On the third attempt, I learned that you technically can kill these guys despite the purple buff, but they are super tanky and I could never seem to kill them in time before too many of them piled on. Ultimately, I decided that this mission wasn't worth the stress and lost time, so I moved on without completing it. I find the third cyst in this room of spewing bile, and I gotta say this level is kind of awesome. It's really unique in terms of level design and color palette. The idea of being trapped inside of a living creature and finding my way out through its innards is just a really cool concept. I find the fourth cyst high up on this ledge and decide to see if there's anything on top of this pirate ship. Much to my surprise, there is, and I find a blue orb fragment. I find the final cyst hidden behind this bus, which moves the final tusk blocking the door. Okay, wait a second, that thing straight up looks like a puss. Minus the tusks, of course. I'm not sure if I should be repulsed or turned on by the look of this doorway. Should I censor blur it? Technically it's not pornographic, but damn the devs made some creative decisions here. All I know is that when presented with the opportunity, I will in fact run into a human-sized vagina without hesitation, and this is proof. So now I'm inside the Leviathan's intestines. There's little pools of acid all over the floor that damage me if I walk over top of them. While they don't present as much of a threat now, they can definitely pick away at my health if I'm not careful. I slash my way through this fleshy valve and load into the Leviathan's heart core. All you need to know is that this is a thing that requires a thing. In the next chamber of intestines, this giant nasty worm appears and starts chasing me down. I never really enjoy segments like this in games. They always feel clunky, and I never seem to be able to skillfully avoid the attacks, despite moving as fast as the game allows me to. It's not fun or engaging, it's just meh. Anyways, I slash my way through another valve and find myself deeper in the Leviathan. There's a murky green fog obscuring my vision, and the walls are pulsating rhythmically, really adding to the sense of being trapped inside of a living creature. A bunch of enemies spawn and I have to take them out before moving on. I find another valve to slash through, which leads me into this room with a weird fleshy pedestal in the middle of the room. Enemies start spawning, so I just attacked first and asked questions later, which ends up being what I'm supposed to do. I'm awarded the Ignis Fatuus, which is just a thing for the thing. Another fleshy hole opens up, and I enter that bitch faster than you can say, "Do you have protection?"
Something's gonna happen, huh?
The intestines are getting really dark and ominous now. The only source of light that I have is this small area illuminated around Dante, which I'm guessing is from that item that I just picked up. I find a statue against one of the intestine walls that requires Cerberus in order to damage. If you remember from before, I said these statues become more difficult as time goes on, and this is a prime example. I've sped this footage up 500% to save on time, because it took me so long to finally land the Showtime rank and acquire the blue orb fragment. I load into another segment of intestines, and the worm is back. I wasn't a fan before, and I'm still not a fan now. This leads me back into the main area that I started the mission in, but this time it's pitch black and full of stomach acid. I explore around briefly to make sure there's no more hidden goodies, but all I find is a green orb on the pirate ship. Inevitably, though, I always gravitate back towards the gaping flesh hole. The stomach acid is becoming quite a nuisance now. Even though it only deals minimal damage, it's really hard to see in the dark, and my little feetsies always seem to plunge straight into it. I rediscover the thing and slap the other thing in it. This dissolves the membranous wall in front of me and starts somewhat of a boss fight. There's 2 different hearts on either side of this open chamber. The one to the left constantly steals the red orbs and green orbs that fall onto the ground, while the one to the right leeches my devil power. Meanwhile, there's always 3 enemies that spawn at any given time, so it's almost pointless to kill them since they're always present. When one of the hearts gets fully damaged down, the protective barrier over the center lobe disappears and reveals that there's freaking laser beams attached to their heads! This short time frame when the barrier is lifted is my only time to dish out any real damage to the boss, as the hearts simply regenerate shortly after they're burned down. In summary, ignore the enemies, kill a heart, DPS the center lobe down, repeat. The hard part about this is that all of the green orb drops from the enemies get immediately sucked up by the red heart, so keeping my health up is quite difficult. Dante's Devil Trigger will passively regenerate some health while it's active, but the blue heart constantly drains my power. I end up burning through 2 of my vital stars in this fight just trying to stay alive, but ultimately I get overwhelmed and can't survive any longer. Before restarting this fight, I decide to purchase the Jetstream upgrade for my dual swords, because this will let me cover more distance when charging forwards. I restart the fight with all of my newfound ability and knowledge of how the mechanics work. This time around goes much smoother, but I would be lying if I said it was a walk in the park. I still took a ton of damage and barely scraped by, but in the long run I was victorious and trigger a cutscene.
Let's cry out in fear of this tower. Timonic grew. A foundation that brought out fear. Fear. Yes. Fear. Can't you feel it? The rage and agonies of the people. Those who were confined here, with their desires for evil being unfulfilled. It was all because Sparta slammed the door to the demon world in their faces.
What's wrong?
Nothing.
The mission ends with a B, which is better than I thought, so I'll take it.
So this is the next stage.
Wait!
If you're asking for a date, forget it. Because I make it a point not to go out with women who shoot me in the head.
Date a demon? I'm not that desperate. Besides, I really don't care for guys who stink like blood.
You're right. Tell me, what's your name?
I don't have a name.
Okay, then what should I call you?
I don't care, whatever you want.
Whatever, lady. I'll leave this to you, because I don't want to miss the party.
Who counted on you anyway?
Before the mission begins, I purchase a large vital star from the store. The camera pans around showing a mechanical bridge spanning a chasm with a few doors around the perimeter. I discover a small panel that lets me know it controls the bridge, but I'll need some special power to activate it. Find a thing to do a thing. I load into a small storeroom layered in spider webs and all the doors lock with red barriers to trap me inside. Giant-ass spiders start descending from the ceiling and roaring at me. These things aren't terribly difficult, but they're new. and anytime I experience a new enemy in this game, I tend to get my ass kicked for the first few times. Dante's Devil Trigger puts in work during these fights. Not only do I think it looks sweet, but the extra DPS and health regen goes a long way during these combat encounters. After all the spiders are dead, the doors open up and I proceed outside, where a blue barrier appears over the next door. Basically, I need to orient these lights around using the mirrors so that it shines on the other statue towards the bottom of the screen. Now, I've played enough Flash and mobile games at this point in my life to know how this shit works, so after a few seconds of Bunneh processing, I instantly solve the puzzle because I'm a fucking genius! I head through the door into the subground water veins. This place is full of those ranged vagina face things, but honestly these things are getting easier now that I have some gap closing abilities. Now, I still get smacked around a bit, don't get me wrong, but they're not nearly the threat that they used to be. I load into a hallway full of enemies with spinning blades lining the walls. Get used to the sight of this because it becomes a common occurrence. Get used to them kicking my ass as well because I'm terrible at this game. Loading into the next area pans the camera around, showing off some of the important points of interest. I find a bunch of red orbs and a green orb over top of the doorway that I loaded through, and stumble across this panel against the side wall. It tells me that I need to restore the mask's sacred energy and the power to part the oceans will be yours. Basically, I need a thing to do a thing. I load into this door beside the storefront, and oh great, more spinny death traps. Most of the time I can navigate around these things, but it's kind of hard during these combat encounters. I keep accidentally dodging enemy attacks and ramming my face straight into them, which is not really what I'm looking for. In the next storeroom, I find the ambrosia, which is the thing to do a thing, and then the red barriers block all the doors. I kill all of the spiders using my awesome demon powers, which unlocks the door leading out of here. A bunch of little spiders spawn on the ground and start running around me, which I think is a bit of an homage to the first Devil May Cry game. There may even be a secret mission somewhere in this game to kill a bunch of these things in a certain time frame, but I never found it in my playthrough. I head back through the rounded hallway and out into the open subterranean lake. I climb up all these conveniently placed pillars to find a brand new weapon sitting on the stone altar. The Spiral. This thing is fucking awesome. I walk over to the shop to equip it instead of my shotgun, not knowing if I would keep it or not, but it ends up being one of my favorite weapons in the entire game. There's nothing special about it in regards to cool attack combos, but that's okay, and you'll see why soon. I head into this tunnel behind the waterfall and find this asshole just crouched completely still against the cavern wall.
I've been doing my bun busters every day. I squeeze really tight, and then I let loose.
I try out the Spiral for the first time on him, and oh my god, this thing is awesome! Every shot feels super impactful with a knockdown effect, and does reasonably high damage. The fire rate is a bit slow to compensate, but the crowd control, DPS output, and ranged more than makes up for it. I mean, look how far this thing can shoot! I love it! The next room has this narrow stone walkway leading over to a door. I finally found the thing to use the thing on, so that's good. Oh, well hello there, sweetheart. Some might find your bloodshot eyes and transparent skin a little bit distracting, but I can think of 2 good reasons not to give a damn.
Welcome, sir. Is this your first time here?
Yeah, it is. You'll be nice to me, won't you?
Of course I will. I'll treat you so nicely. You'll never want to leave.
Now that's what I'm talking about.
Then, come on, sugar.
Alright, so I guess she's an evil demon, and I probably should fight her. So immediately, I'm seeing that those bats flying around her act as a damage bubble. It seems that I can damage them to some extent, so I start to approach this pretty aggressively. But that doesn't work out so well. After all the bats are defeated, she becomes vulnerable to attacks, but this growing black pole underneath of her feet limits how much damage I can dish out. Aside from sending groups of flying electric bats at me, she also casts these lightning strike abilities that have really large AoEs attached to them. I knew that this first attempt was already a bust since I was so low on health, but it was a good learning experience. The second time through seems to be going a little bit smoother since I kind of have an idea about what to do. Basically, damage down her shield bats, DPS her as quickly as possible, and get out. At one point she electrifies the entire floor, which I thought for sure I dodged, but it still hits me. I dodge it just fine the next time, but then she starts throwing electric fences at me, and at this point I'm just hoping she's out of new attacks because this is bullshit. I pop that large vital star so I can stay in the fight, feeling pretty confident that I can take her down this attempt. She does have a few new tricks up her sleeve, but I'm literally falling off the edge of my computer chair right now, sitting 5 inches from my monitor, so she can try whatever the fuck she wants. I'm ready! I've highly sped up this footage here to save you all the pain that I went through during this fight. It's basically just a rinse and repeat of everything that I've explained until I finally take her down.
My, you're sweet.
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
All right. I'll help you. Your father was a handsome devil. But you're no slouch yourself.
Defeating Tits Ahoy awards me the Nevin Devil Arm, which is an electric guitar capable of summoning bats and transforming into a sickle-like melee weapon. On paper, this thing sounds amazing, but I assure you it's not. I leave the Opera House and trigger another cutscene.
Welcome back.
The mission ends with a C, which I think is bullshit, but there's no teacher to argue with, so I'll let it slide.
Soon we will reach the lair of judgment. Temin Negru will finally regain its full function and lead us into the demon world. The world where Sparta's power has been sealed. And the one who will lift the incantation is you. His own son. It must be fate.
Does that woman really bother you?
What are you talking about?
Why didn't you kill her? Perhaps because she's your daughter. Did some pesky fatherly love get in your way?
That's none of your...
To further your study of the black arts, you sacrificed your loving wife to become a devil as well. Knowing this, I thought you'd be more useful to me. But I was wrong. No wonder your attainment of power is incomplete.
What about you? You're an incomplete being as well. Oh. Both demon and human blood mingle in your veins.
Shut up. Now that the final door is open, I have no use for you.
Mission 10 begins, and I immediately find the Stone Mask, otherwise known as a Thing for a Thing. I leave through the Opera House, find some baddies on a narrow stone walkways, and discover this pretty area in the caverns below. There's a Devil Star consumable down here, but I honestly just came down here for the colors. On my way out of the caverns, I come across this peculiar area with 2 red crystals against the wall, so naturally I investigate. As it turns out, it's a secret room with the objective of breaking every object in a room within 40 seconds. I almost finished this on my first attempt, but I was 3 objects shy, so I had to restart it. I actually love secret missions like this because they're challenging, but not necessarily frustrating because there's no consequences, only rewards. Anyways, I nail it on my second attempt and claim the blue orb fragment as a reward. I leave the caverns through the waterfall and head over to the store to equip my newest awesome guitar. I check out some of the combos available, and on paper, this weapon seems awesome. The animations look sweet, and it feels like it's going to be really impactful. I even find a statue nearby to test it out on, and my first impressions are pretty positive. Too bad, it sucks, but I didn't know that yet. I head over to this little statue against the wall and use the stone mask that I found earlier. This raises the bridge from the waterway below and bridges the gap over to this shiny thing. It's a Neo generator. Oh my god, I've always wanted one. I exit this area into the rounded pathway, and a short cutscene plays out introducing some new enemies. They're little floating knight dudes that fly around on straight paths with spinning shields. Unsure how to beat them on my first attempt, and getting my ass handed to me by all of these environmental traps, I nearly die in this section trying to defeat them. Eventually I learned that patience is a virtue, and I can just wait out their pathing to take them down efficiently without dying so much. Outside are a bunch more of those ranged vagina faces, and a location where I begin to realize just how weak the guitar is. I mean, I pummel the heck out of this thing with boatloads of ranged attacks and land a sweet guitar solo Bat Vortex, and it was barely enough to kill it. Compare this to my dual-wield swords that can take down 2 of these enemies in half the time, and it should be pretty obvious why the guitar is falling out of favor for me. I step into the storage room and get locked inside with a bunch of spiders and think to myself, hey, bats eat spiders! The guitar should shred here. But it doesn't. I just keep getting locked into animations and taking damage, while dishing out a quarter of the damage that I would normally be dealing. Eventually, I just switch back to the tried and true and wipe all these things out before they kill me, unlocking the red barrier. This little cutscene plays out showing Dante playing hacky sack with that thing that I found. I can't recall the name, but it was a thing for this thing, I think. Oh yeah, and putting that thing in that thing activates that thing, so now we can progress to do the thing.
Well, that was quick.
That man. Did you kill him?
So what if I did? Woo! Ooh, I love a fast woman.
Shut up! He was obsessed with becoming the devil. So much he killed his own wife. For that, he butchered innocent people, too. He's the most vile kind of creature. To top it off, that filthy scum is my father.
Well, we have something in common. I have a dysfunctional family, too.
And what would you know about family? You're a demon. This is my father. My family. This was all supposed to end by my hand.
Aren't you gonna shoot? Well, that's a switch.
Just go. I don't care anymore.
Family, huh?
The mission ends with a B, and I feel that that's accurate.
Where am I? It's dark, I can't see anything.
You're still alive, I see.
Mary? Is that you? What's happening? Where's your mother?
My mother? You killed her, remember?
Yes. That's right. I killed her. With my own hands. What horrible thing have I done? I was too weak. I succumbed to his influence.
You mean you were possessed? Father?
Yes, I was manipulated. Manipulated by a devil named Virgil.
Virgil?
He's attempting to bring the demon world back to this modern day. A world that Sparta once sealed off.
Sparta? I thought he was a myth.
If the demons return, this world will be thrown into chaos. Stop him. Stop Virgil.
Me?
You're such a sweet child. Just like your mother.
Father! Father! Virgil.
Before Mission 11 begins, I hop into the store and purchase the Reverb Shock upgrade for the Nevin. I thought that maybe I'm just harshly comparing this thing to my highly upgraded dual-wield swords and not using it as correctly as it should be used. I will say that I love the look and style of the Nevin, and while this new ability did seem to offer some advantages in combat, it just doesn't feel anything close to as powerful as my swords. I hop onto this ledge and find a Devil Star, then proceed through the doorway into the Altar of Evil pathway. At first I didn't think this place looked too evil, until I found this blue orb fragment above me that I just couldn't seem to get to. After struggling for about 3 minutes straight, I land the jump just right and land inside this cubby. My god, that was painful. Altar of Evil pathway indeed. Walking down the hall, I trigger a cutscene introducing a new type of enemy. Basically, these things turn both invisible and invincible when I'm facing them, and only appear when my back is turned. The guitar is too damn slow to do anything to these guys, but my spiral rifle absolutely shreds them apart. The next room locks me in with blue barriers, telling me that I've got a puzzle to solve. I once again struggle with the parkour in this game for way too long, but after making it up onto the ledge I spot a hole in the wall to my right, and well, you know how I am with holes in this game.
Everlasting God, who once...
Basically, I've got to smack these little blocks into the holes in the wall to make the statues in the center of the area cry blood. Who would have thought the demonic towers sporadically jutting from the asphalt below a city would have kindergarten-level block puzzles to unlock their gateways? Also, who would have thought that I got that last line completed on my first attempt? Anyways, this does unlock the blue barrier, but then a red barrier appears and I have to fight my way out. The biggest threat here is the Reaper, but those new floating enemies make the fight extremely annoying because I can't really take them out at my leisure. Also, Dante keeps auto-targeting them in the background instead of the Reaper like I want him to, so I end up just running around swinging at nothingness most of the time. I do manage to finish off the Reaper with a guitar solo though, so that's pretty sweet. I discovered that you can swing from the chandeliers like that one Sia song, and I head outside onto a small platform. There's a green orb on the platform below, and a vial of holy water close by, which I'm sure will come in handy later. I also find a statue hidden underneath of the platform that I walked out on that requires my dual-wield swords to take down. I would be lying if I said this was easy. The game expects me to achieve a Showtime rank to break it open, which is easier said than done when I suck at this game. I hop onto this railway platform car thing and find myself in a constant brawl as enemies flood in from other cars. I will say that the new ability I purchased for Nevin in combination with the guitar solo ability actually works out very well in confined quarters like this, but I still find that I could perform better in all these fights with a different weapon. My railway car reaches its destination, and I walk up onto the set of stairs over top of a pool of lava. There's a storefront conveniently located outside of this door, which is just screaming boss fight.
Didn't your mother ever teach you how to use a door? Huh? Give me a break. Tell you what, next time I'll try and wear some cologne, okay?
It's the stench of betrayal, the odor of that accursed Sparta. I will annihilate every last blood relation of Sparta!
A son cleaning up his dad's mess, huh? Where have I heard this story before?
Alright, so the fight begins, and this thing is aggressive as hell. I try to make as much use of the Nevin as I can to justify its continued use, but it's just shit. Its animations are way too long, and its damage is subpar. The only real thing that made it somewhat decent before was that the new Reverb Shock ability could CC enemies, but it doesn't work against bosses, so it just feels really weak here. The swords, on the other hand, put in work as always, but given that this time was my first attempt at fighting this boss, I already knew I was going to lose. There's too many different mechanics to learn, too many mistakes to make, and all of the boss's attacks just rip me apart. Needless to say, I die. The second attempt, though, I really, truly tried to use the Nevin to its fullest potential in the beginning, but no. Just no. I almost die to one of his attacks and decide to pop the large vital star to stay in the fight. All of his health is forfeited, though, when he pummels my ass with an assault of flying feathers. I mean, who throws feathers?
Honestly.
I had this boss really close to death, but he had me really close to death as well. I didn't want to completely waste that vital star that I had used earlier on in the fight, so I opted to use one of those vials of holy water that I found earlier, which turns out to do a boatload of damage and ends the fight instantly.
One whose heart pumps the blood of Sparta. Though my sight is gone, I remember your scent. I shall hunt you down through eternity if I must, till I rid this earth of your foul smell.
Why do I have to take the heat for my father? Come on, man. Cut me some slack.
The game allows me to control Dante again for about 3.5 seconds before interrupting my gameplay and playing another cutscene. Couldn't the game have simply shown this before the next mission, like always? Why even give me control again, only to take it away so quickly? It feels clunky. Anyways, the mission ends with a C, so moving on.
This is amazing! Even the Devil Boy is no match for it. Oh, whoa. Oh, whoa. You're not going to shoot me, are you? If you do, I'll die. You know?
If that's what it takes to shut you up, It bugs the crap out of me when someone talks more than I do.
Don't act so rashly, my boy. I've got a doozy of a story for you. But if you snuff out my voice like that, I won't be able to tell it now, will I? I thought I was a goner for sure. Oops. You saw it too, didn't you? That huge tower jutting out of the ground. That thick shaft that causes women to shudder. Is actually a tunnel, linking the demonic domain to the human world. And of course, your brother Virgil is the one who controls it by using your mommy's amulet.
Amulet?
He's headed to the control room in the basement. If you don't hop down there quick like a bunny, he'll open the gate to hell. Isn't that a scary thought?
And you're telling me this because...
Oops! I forgot to mention one teeny little item. That gizmo there is actually the key to move forward. But the tricky thing is, it sucks the souls of those who hold it. So I think you'd better hurry. But in return for your soul, it'll give you power. Marvelous, isn't it? Just let your young spirit drive you, and go for it!
Wish you would have told me that in the first place. You big mouth moron.
Before the mission begins, I finally make the executive decision to swap out the guitar for Cerberus once again. Sorry, Nevin, but it's been shit. The mission begins with a pop-up telling me I've looted the Haywire Neo Generator, no spaces between any of those words, and that my soul is being drained in exchange for power. This basically means that I'm in 24/7 Devil Trigger mode, but my health is rapidly draining at the same time. I need to get this thing somewhere. Where exactly?
Nobody knows.
This mission is really interesting, though, because not only does it force me into combat scenarios, they're almost necessary. My health is draining too fast to ever make it to where I'm going without fighting, because I have to have the green orb drops to stay alive. It becomes this really interesting race against the clock, where I have to fight in order to live. Every room I enter seems to lock and force me into combat, but it's honestly pretty damn fun. The 24/7 Devil Trigger mode means that I'm fast and do great damage, so I'm just tearing through enemies left and right on an onslaught heading somewhere. I felt like I was doing pretty good until I reached this room with a Reaper. My health was just too low to sustain the damage that I was taking, and like usual, I die. Luckily, the game respawns me right outside the door, and I'm able to retry the fight with a full pull of health. I still get my ass kicked a little, but I end the fight with a full pull of health, and I think that's all that really matters. I load out onto the bridge and trigger this short cutscene where Dante violently hip-thrusts this thing into the thing, activating the thing again. I'm glad I strategically mapped out where to go and path-found my way here using game knowledge and skill. In the next room, I find a large vital star sitting on the floor and decide to fully upgrade Cerberus's last ability. Now, of course, I stand directly in the pillar of electricity, but it doesn't do anything. I head down the spiral staircase and through this elaborate door into the underground arena, triggering a cutscene.
Talk about horsepower. A chicken race with a horse, huh? Fair enough.
Okay, I wasn't expecting a boss fight at this stage of the level, but here we go. This ghost horse charges back and forth across the bridge and teleports depending on which side that I'm on. It seems that I can land on top of the carriage if I time it right, but I can't really get in much DPS before he disappears again. Eventually, after I deal enough damage to him, he collapses onto his side and triggers another cutscene.
First chicken, now gladiator. This just keeps getting better and better. Too bad there's nobody here to enjoy the show!
Alright, so the fight is getting a bit tougher now. He runs around the arena shooting missiles for some reason, and if I get too close, he stomps me away and sends pillars of fire out that do way too much damage. Basically, I just need to squeeze in DPS where I find openings until I can eventually knock him onto his side like before. This allows me to get in some big boy DPS, but after a bit, he slows down time and disappears. How many abilities does this fucking horse have? I decided to pop that large vital star because I was feeling pretty confident in my ability to finish this fight on the first attempt. I just had to use tactics that this horse had never seen before. For instance, the next time it collapses, I dedicate myself to going straight for the ass. I bet you didn't see that coming, you stupid horse!
What the...
When he's down to about a quarter health, he starts spawning these little orbs throughout the arena, and if I touch one, it slows down time. They don't really seem to be all that deadly, but they're annoying and really mess up my rotations, so I try to avoid them. Rinse and repeat my ass tactics a few more times, and this boss fight is complete. Defeating the horse gives me access to Quicksilver, which is a new fighting style to try out. I was pretty stoked to unlock something like this because it really opens up the possibility of some sweet combos. As you'll soon discover with me though, it's not very good, or at least I don't understand it well enough to use it. Once again, the game lets me play for about 10 seconds before throwing me into another cutscene. Why? Just don't let me play!
Seed of Sparta! I told you that I remembered your rancid scent. No matter where you run to, you could never hide from me. You're not the one I faced before. But the smell, there are two of them. That excellent Sparta had two sons.
I think this was a very interesting way of presenting the two brothers. It seems that every time Dante defeats an enemy, they willingly give up their power to him to aid him in combat, whereas Virgil just takes it. It's a cool way of showcasing how the different brothers approach their ascension to power and defines their personalities. Also, this devil arm seems awesome and I can't wait to pry it from Virgil's cold dead hands! The mission ends with a B for bitch magnet. Before the mission begins, I switch from Trickster to Quicksilver because I want to try it out. I immediately get locked into this room by a red barrier and decide to test out Quicksilver's ability for the first time. It has this really cool effect that looks really impactful, but it only lasts a few seconds. I thought that if I could pop it relatively frequently though, it still might be an awesome fighting style to roll with for a bit. But I wasn't ever able to use it again. Ever. No matter how many times I pressed the key binding, it wouldn't activate, and I couldn't figure out why. Now that I'm looking at all this footage and editing though, I realize that Quicksilver requires a full Devil Trigger to activate and consumes it fairly quickly. Since I was always using Dante's Devil Trigger during combat, I was never able to use this ability again. I head down the stairs through a long hallway and find a Devil Star located up this wall. There's a boatload of these chest enemies scattered everywhere through here, and like I said before, they're just kind of meh. They're not necessarily dangerous, or cool, or challenging, they're just filler. I head into this small room with another light and a mirror puzzle. I take a moment to run around exploring before I make a few very precise cuts to instantly solve the puzzle on my first attempt. I would like to say I'm a master at these things, but I get humbled later. Don't worry. Solving this puzzle unlocks a thing for a thing, and I fight my way through the hallways some more before reaching the obsidian path. I hop into the store and swap out Quicksilver for Trickster again because, like I said, I was only able to use this ability a single time since I didn't realize to consume Devil Trigger. I use the thing on the thing, which opens up the thing. Before heading inside, though, I decide to take a short detour down a hallway and find a statue that requires a devil arm that is charged from the heavens. I don't have anything like this in my possession right now, which means I'm probably about to get it in a boss fight.
Why isn't this working? Is there something missing? Must more blood be shed?
You seem to be in a bad mood.
Dante.
So, my mother's amulet is the key that unlocks the door to the demon world. Good plan, Pop.
Just the opposite, actually. Originally, it was the key to the demon world, but was given to humans as a gift.
It doesn't matter to me one way or the other. More importantly, I've come all this way. I'm sure you have time for one more game, right?
Why not? After all, we share the same blood. I'll just use more of yours to undo Daddy's little spell.
So, you want a piece of me literally? Okay, bro. Come and get it, if you can.
Oh, fucking hell, I'm fighting Virgil again. Except this time, he's got some new moves to work with. Great. Those bitch magnet gauntlets of his have gifted him an all-new moveset to work with, albeit most of the time he just teleports and diagonal kicks. Just like the last time, if I can catch him between animations, I can usually CC lock him and get in some good DPS, but most of the time I just spend getting my ass kicked. Those gauntlets of his hit like a truck, and he's incredibly fast, so it's pretty tough to avoid taking damage. Despite this, I did still feel reasonably confident in my first attempt though, so I decided to pop a small Vital Star and a Devil Star. My basic tactic was to attempt to catch him between attacks to capitalize on CCing him, while using my Trickster dodges to avoid all of his constant teleport kicks. Fighting this asshole reminds me of battling my buddies on Tekken when I was a kid. There was always that one fighter that had a super overpowered ability that could be spammed into oblivion to win a fight, and that's the same tactic Virgil is using right now. Anyways, despite my confidence and valiant effort, I die to a teleport kick from off camera. And then I die a second time. And a third time, and a fourth time, and a fifth time, until finally, with a fucking shoestring of health left, I managed to catch him between animations, somehow nunchuck my way out of his teleport kick, and finish him off with some bullets to the head.
Sorry, but this is no place for a little girl. So beat it.
Shut up! You forced him into this!
Is that what you think? Foolish girl.
Bravo! Bravo! I never dreamed that things would go so smoothly. Well done, everyone. Well done.
You.
Don't be a bad girl, Mary. Or you can expect a spanking from Daddy later. Jester's gonna spank you, but spank you on the
Insane
butt.
buffoon! I don't know where you came from, but you don't belong here.
Now leave! Zowie, that was close. But you've taken quite a trouncing today, haven't you, Virgil? You could have chopped me into confetti by now if you were in tip-top condition.
Damn you!
You have lost. Because you underestimated humans.
Wait a second, Lady's dad is the Jester character? Is that like his devil trigger, or is he being possessed by a Jester? I beat this game a long time ago, and then spent countless hours in editing and script writing, and I still have no idea what's going on here. As the cutscene plays out, pay attention to how many times he costume swaps. It's wild.
What's going on?
Good girl. Pure and innocent. Just like your mother.
You bastard!
It's time for your spanking, my dear. You want to know why the spell didn't break? Virgil? You have the 2 amulets and Sparta's blood. You had everything you needed to unleash the evil.
I told you before, I don't like anybody who has a bigger mouth than mine.
You are wounded and weak. Even I can do this to you.
2 amulets. A set of Sparta's blood. Now, I need one more key. He sacrificed 2 things to suppress the tremendous force of this tower. His own devil's blood and a mortal priestess. I needed you, in whose body flows the same blood as the sacrificed woman. His spell cannot be undone without your blood.
It was quite a ride, you know. If any of you had died before getting here, our little plan would have gone to waste. Ha! Therefore, my job was to make you battle each other in order to weaken you. But at the same time, I had to guide you here and make sure that you were kept alive. I even went so far as dressing like a complete idiot. It's time for bed, Mary. You can visit your dear mother. Whoa!
Try me.
It's time for the clown to bow out, Arkham.
Dude, the show's over.
Impressive. I expected nothing less from the Devil's descendants. But aren't you forgetting something, Virgil? The spell is broken. What do you think will happen next? Let's welcome chaos. Just sit and wait. Wait for the birth of a new god. I shall take over the power of Sparta!
Anyways, the mission ends with a C, and that's to be expected.
Are you gonna go?
Yes, I'm going to finish him off.
Well, you might as well forget it, because you're no match for him.
Regardless, I must go. I had a chance to stop him before, but I couldn't. I'm responsible for all this mess.
Responsible? Does it bother you that much?
He's my father. Besides, who else can undo what he's done? A demon like you wouldn't understand.
Maybe not, but I certainly understand completely severed hamstring muscles. Bitch, you ain't climbing nothing.
Father and family, huh? Well, I'll go too. But you better hurry if you don't want me to take all the credit.
Yeah, don't worry, she's still hanging up there by her arms because completely severed hamstring muscles! Before the mission begins, I upgrade the spiral because it's incredible. I explore the area a little bit and discover the Beowulf Devil Arm lying over here on the ground. I told you I'd take them from Virgil's cold dead hands! I equip them at the nearby store and check out the movesets available. These things feel very similar to the Ifrit gauntlets from the first game, and I absolutely love the look and feel of those, so my hopes are pretty high. I find a statue nearby that has to be damaged by them, so it gives me an opportunity to try out the movesets and get rewarded for it. I head through this doorway, up an elevator, and back into the open courtyard, only to turn around and head back down where I was before because there was one little corridor I didn't get a chance to investigate. Turns out there was nothing there, so it was a giant waste of time. I head back to the elevator, into the open area, head across the bridge, through the crack in the wall, into the next doorway, through the vestibule, and inadvertently discover this secret hidden room above me. Naturally, my first instinct was to beat the living shit out of it, but eventually I discovered the circle button. The goal for this mission is to not let a single enemy escape on the constantly moving railway cars. It sounds easy enough, but it's actually quite challenging. The pistols don't do quite enough damage, and the spiral is just a bit too slow, which inspired me to develop a brand new approach to range DPS in the game. I discovered that I could fire the spiral for some chunky DPS, and then while waiting for its animation cooldown, I could quickly switch over to Ebony and Ivory to provide some filler DPS. I mean, I went straight up Major League Gaming on this son of a bitch. I was sweating over my controller, snorting lines of G Fuel, and yelling at Mum for the bathroom.
Man! Bathroom!
Unfortunately, there's this one segment where a single enemy zips by on a rail car so damn fast that I threw up on my keyboard. I failed this part the second time around too, but the third time when I did successfully take him out, there's another railway car with 3 of these assholes that doesn't even stop, so I fail it again. After a little bit, I decide to fully switch to the pistols since these enemies are relatively weak and I was simply lacking speed. This works and I claim the blue orb fragment as a reward. The next room locks me inside with red barriers and I gotta kill stuff. It's actually a pretty easy fight, just some of those flying spinny dudes. The Beowulf gauntlets actually make these guys a lot easier to kill with that diagonal kick. After unlocking the door, I head back outside to the railway car, fight my way through hordes of enemies on the ride, and arrive at my destination. I was feeling pretty confident in this new devil arm, so I decided to buy an uppercut ability from the store before moving on. This next area is called Hell's Highway, and I think that's putting it lightly. This place is so confusing. Sometimes I can go through gates, other times they're locked. Occasionally, when I enter an area, all of the gates around me lock and I have to fight enemies. I'm not sure if that means I'm moving in the right direction or the wrong direction, but I'm going somewhere, that's for sure. Some of the rooms are colored differently, but I don't really know what that means, if anything. I can't even use it as a guide because I don't know where I've been or where to go. Eventually I do the thing, and the final gateway opens up and rewards me with a blue orb fragment. I'm led outside into this open platform that does nothing, so I assume I'm meant to progress past this point. The only other door available is the one leading into this open area full of vagina faces, and let me just say that the spiral absolutely decimates these things. On one of the upper platforms I find a glowing portal which leads me back into that strip club from the beginning of the game. I have no idea if this is correct or not, or what I'm doing here, but my man stinks have brought me back into a place of sanctuary. Outside I find a bunch of red orbs floating up high on a rooftop, so I guess this is correct? Hey, wait, damn it, James, get off my screen! Okay, so the physics in this game are completely fucked. I'm at least glad that the game devs destroyed the bike here. I mean, after all, the bike isn't demonic, so there's no way it should have survived that fight. Anyways, B, moving on.
Severed hamstrings!
Mission 15 begins, and I get locked outside with demon angels. Fallen angels? Man, I don't know what to call these things. It seems that their wings act as shields to guard their ugly stomach faces, and after dealing enough damage to their wings, they sever off for a short time. They never seem to miss with their swords, and even when they do, they don't because of AoE damage. Luckily, this explosion threw me right into a green orb sitting off camera, so I was able to heal up and not have to restart this fight. After both of these guys are defeated, the door unlocks and I load into the spider storeroom once again. What's inside the spider storeroom, you might ask? Spiders! And I punch them in their stupid faces. That is, until I get webbed, drug across the arena, kicked in the face, and then sliced to death. God, this game is difficult. The second time around goes much smoother, and I do a short little victory dance to assert my dominance. I load into this Devil Sprout lift arena and find this thing that needs 3 things. Here we go again. The first area I find is this open little courtyard with a staircase descending downwards. I spot a juicy red orb dispenser up top that is just begging to be pummeled by my fist of justice, but the parkour in this game is just so fucking clunky I can't make it up there. Eventually, I'm able to land on this little ledge to the side and consume my delicious reward.
Fucking delicious.
Down in the courtyard, I find a demon wheel, so naturally I beat the living shit out of it, which activates some kind of energy source. I decide to wall jump up the dead Leviathan's eyeball and get rewarded with a bunch of red orbs, so that's pretty sweet. The only path I have to take back is through the Devil Sprout lift and into the spider storeroom. I noticed this wheel here before and speculated that I was supposed to unlock it with the other wheel that I just beat up, and I was right. Activating this wheel shakes the entire tower and changes where all these marked doors lead to. I was in this room before, but now all these moving parts have been activated. I didn't think this would be a big deal until I started fighting. These environmental traps absolutely kick my ass, repeatedly. I find another demon wheel thing to activate, which shakes the tower again and presumably changes the doors around. I strategically approach the next door and find myself in a long hallway of death traps. Now, luckily, I have the speed, grace, and agility of a fucking jungle cat. Alright, so I lost a little bit more health than I was expecting to, but results are results, and I just nabbed myself a thing. Oddly enough, I navigate these things backwards without taking a single point of damage. So tell me how that works. I'm assuming I have to reactivate this wheel again to change the tower's orientation, so that's what I do. I also test the integrity of this spinning wheel just to be sure its engineering is sound. Activating that demon wheel didn't seem to change anything with this doorway, so I head back out to hit it again, and I die. This results in me re-killing all of those flying creatures in this section again before loading back into the spider storeroom and reactivating the demon wheel again. This changes the doorway to lead into the Subterria Lack, and if all that sounds confusing, it's because it fucking is! I have no idea where I'm going or what I'm doing, but the map seems to be changing, and I think I'm doing things correctly, albeit in a janky fashion. I find another door leading into the rounded pathway from before. Despite the enemies and death traps in this room, I'm able to just squeeze right by and grab the thing. Well, that is until one of these invisible things picks me up like a rag doll and uses my body as a human fleshlight.
Something's gonna happen!
Now, if you thought I made it out of here without hitting all of these environmental traps, then you have not been paying attention. I reactivate the demon wheel for the millionth time and load into another chamber with even more enemies and confusing traps. This entire hallway simply leads to another demon wheel to activate it, and I load in through the nearby doorway into another spider storeroom that isn't the spider storeroom from before because this one has a shiny thing. There's still spiders though, don't worry. Okay, so now I just have to patiently and strategically... shit! Oh, fuck! Oh, goddammit! Hey, I made it! Wait, this is the place I started in. Don't tell me I have to go back through the... So I activate this thing again, go back through the entire damn death tunnel, into the cogwheel room once again, and I die. I respawn, activate the demon wheel, and go through the doorway again to finally end up at the Devil Sprout lift, but wait, I'm on the wrong side of it. This side has a plaque that tells me that this path leads to the human world, and that to enter the demon world I must proceed towards the heavens from the central route. I don't know what that means. Can we just please give me some directions? I load through the doorway, walk down some stairs, and find myself in the underground arena again, only this time it's all destroyed from the tower. I didn't realize this at the time, but I could have jumped off this ledge to land down here before if I wanted to, but I'm not really sure that would have helped me at all. So, I backtrack my way all the way back to the cogwheel room and die. Fuck me!
Those mother bitches over there!
I respawn, activate the demon wheel, and find myself in the spider storeroom, which I think is actually correct this time. I go through this other doorway, up the stairs to the lift, and use the 3 things on the thing to activate the thing. Jesus Christ, this level was an absolute headache, and now I hate this game. I don't actually hate this game.
He plucks the threads that make us dance finger and toe. We surrender, in joy, to the lowest of the foul and rank. We submerge through darkness, rancid filth. Hour by hour, we move downward, ever closer to hell, in a slow, steady gait. Now, let the world resonate. sloth, gluttony, greed, envy, lust, wrath, and pride. A bell of chaos that tolls human desires. After 2,000 long years, the once sealed gate to the demonic world will open. Destruction! Carnage and despair! Let your instincts drive you. Entrap this world in fear, as its very name, timid Negru, strikes terror into the heart of mankind. Then I will become the ultimate ruler of this wasteland, engulfed with pandemonium. The demonic power that Sparta once imprisoned will be mine!
Mission ends with a B, which is startling.
Now this is what I'm talking about.
So Mission 16 was preluded with that cutscene of Dante fighting demons, but then when the mission starts, there's nothing in sight. I head through the nearby red door and pound ass the whole way up the stairs. Okay, that didn't come out right. In this chamber of sins are 2 balls hanging from the ceiling and a shiny object locked behind a metal gate. Hitting this demon wheel on the nearby wall drops the corresponding ball down to where I can hit it, but trying to hit these things is sketchy. The targeting system just ceases to exist around these things for some reason, but after enough bouncing around like a madman, my balls collide together in a spectacular show as the hole to glory opens itself up to me. If you weren't looking at your screen before, you certainly are now. Holes in glory are never met without a struggle though, and these angel demons are no exception. But I fist their asses into submission and unlock the red barrier for my efforts. Loading into the next room immediately locks me behind another red barrier, and I have to fight a bunch of enemies. These guys are really difficult to fight due to all their random teleports and size the size of Kansas! No matter where I dodge or how I land, I seem to get hit, so the first attempt is a bust. The second attempt goes great though, and I actually level up my Trickster style to its maximum rank of 3. This gives me access to Air Trick, with no spaces in the name, and Triple Dash, with no spaces in the name. Air Trick looks really weird for the first few times I test it, but that's because there are no enemies in sight at the moment. It'll all make sense soon enough. The Triple Dash is pretty self-explanatory and allows me to dodge 3 times in succession now. I was expecting another thing for a thing in this room, but it turns out it's just a Devil Star. I walk over to the shop and purchase the Rising Dragon upgrade for Beowulf. It was definitely feeling like this was going to be one of the main weapons until the end of the game, so I figured it was worth the upgrade. I pound some more ass in the hallway, just like Mama taught me, and load through this blue door to get locked behind a red barrier once again. Hold my beer.
5 minutes later.
So now I'm in a place called the Working Sun Chamber. There's a small panel on the wall that reads, "He who pursues the eternal power of the golden sun." Yeah, I'm just gonna beat the shit out of this thing. Damn it, James, you're ruining my montage! After breaking open the swinging ball, the wall shifts open, revealing the golden sun. It's a thing for a thing. Per the usual, the door locks, and I have to fight a bunch of enemies. There are some weird chess pieces being introduced now that shoot fucking lasers, so that's concerning. After unlocking the barrier, I decide to explore the room a little bit more and uncover a secret room telling me to solve this crystal puzzle. Now, I've absolutely nailed these puzzles before, so this should be easy. Oh.
Jesus Christ.
To say that I struggled here is an understatement. I tried being as analytical as I could to precisely take out certain mirrors to refract in certain directions, but no matter how I ran this puzzle, I always seemed to fail and I had to reset it. I tried every combination you could imagine for the hopes that I was missing one little mirror that would send the light at a new angle and crack the code, but alas, I couldn't figure it out. That is, until I realized that literally all of these mirrors in this room were just a diversion, and the camera angle shifts to reveal this cracked wall once you get close enough to it. Entering into here shows a single mirror blocking the light beam, and that solves the puzzle. Fuck me in the ass! I mean, there's not even a crack in the wall here. How on earth was I supposed to know that? Anyways, I take my blue orb fragment, leave the room, and take the elevator downwards. Immediately, I'm thinking to myself that something isn't right, so I take it back up, and lo and behold, there's another door in this main room that takes 2 things to open. I have these things! I found these things. This leads me into the Ice Guardian's chamber, where I get my ass kicked. But eventually, I fight my way into the chamber above, and I get my ass kicked. I head into the Endless Infernum, past this giant laser, through the Flying Centipede's chamber, into this awesome-looking clockwork tower where I find a small vital star, and finally end up in the Divine Library.
What's wrong? You tired? Then stand back. I'll take care of this.
No, you stand back.
I told you, you can't do it. Don't you get it? This is not a human's job.
You're the one who doesn't get it. It's not something you can reason with. It has nothing to do with me being a human and you being a demon. I'm driven by the inability to forgive him. My soul is screaming, demanding me to kill him. That's enough motivation to keep me going. Besides, this is my family matter. You should stay out of it.
Okay, lady. I get the picture now, but I can't just sit back and watch either. I'm pretty pissed at him too, you know. Now, get out of my way, or there'll be some consequences.
Fair enough. I wasn't planning on letting any demons live anyway. Not even one.
So now I'm in a fight with Lady. Now, I'll be honest, I feel like this fight just straight up doesn't belong in the game. After all, Dante is half demon, and Lady, as far as I can tell, is just a human. This fight should last all of about 3 seconds, and that's only if I trip on my shoelaces on my way over to her. But that's not how this is playing out at all. In fact, she's kicking my ass. She keeps her distance and uses her rocket launcher most of the time, and every time I finally get within a close proximity to her, she daintily runs away. When I'm finally able to catch up to her, I can get in some decent damage before she grapples into nothingness off camera, and the cycle repeats. This ends up being just one long game of cat and mouse, which makes sense given the power differences, but I repeat, she's a human! I'm currently dual-wielding swords with the power of flame and air, off-handing heavenly gauntlets and boots, pistol-slinging ebony and ivory, and back-pocketing a sniper rifle somewhere on my person, all the while being able to transform into a fucking demon! How is she kicking my butt this bad? I even have to pop a vital star at one point just to stay in the fight. Luckily, all of my effort isn't wasted, and I am able to defeat her on my first try, but it was way more difficult than it should have been. Okay, see what I mean? That's how the fight should have played out.
I'll take care of him.
Why do you care so much?
This whole business started with my father sealing the entrance between the 2 worlds. And now, my brother's trying to break that spell and turn everything into Demonville. This is my family matter, too. Quite frankly, at first, I didn't give a damn. But because of you, I know what's important now. I know what I need to do.
Wait.
Trust me, I'll make things right for you. That's what my soul is telling me to do.
Use this.
How much is it gonna cost me?
You can give me your name.
Dante.
Dante. Please. Free my father.
I will, lady.
Lady gives me the Kalina Ann, no spaces, which I'm sure will come in handy later. I ascend up the bouncy tower and complete the mission with a grade of B. Before Mission 17 begins, I purchase straight level 2 for Beowulf and equip the Kalina Ann, now with a space in between the words. This thing is sweet, but it feels very slow. I check the abilities menu to see what all it can do, but firing a single missile is all. I would think with a description of various uses that it would have various uses, but alas that's not the case. I pick up a bunch of red orbs high up in the archways and proceed into this hole in the wall. You guys know how I am with holes in walls.
Everlasting God, who once...
This puts me back in the small room with the demon wheels around the sides that need to be damaged in order to kill anything. Naturally, I beat the living shit out of them and go toe-to-toe with the Reaper, but the wheels only stay active for so long. Trying to juggle DPSing them down while avoiding the Reaper's attacks feels damn near impossible, and I die. When I respawn, I decide to peek into the other nearby door instead and get this little cutscene showing a convoluted room of spinning squares and jumping puzzles. If ever there was a room I didn't want to be in, it's a room made up of entirely spinning squares and jumping puzzles. So I head back into the other room for round 2 with the Reaper, only this time I was just able to scrape by with a nick of health left. This rewards me with a gold orb, which I'm sure will come in handy later, but feels pretty lackluster for the effort that I just put in. I head back into the Room of Dread, but discover a sweet, succulent, sexy red orb dispenser in the corner. The jumping obstacles actually aren't too bad in this room. Unlike other parkour areas in the game, I'm able to pivot the camera around here a little bit, which makes lining up the jumps and timing things much easier. The double jump ability I purchased and the trickster aerial dodges make things a lot easier too. This one section of the puzzle is kind of strange and knocks me off the first time that I try it, but then I realize that I can just literally stand on this block as it spins around, then jump over to the stacks of block nearby. In the next room is a pillar of lightning that I'm presumably supposed to interact with. Doing so loads me into another fight with the Jester, fuck me! So this is the part of the story that still confuses me. This is Lady's dad, right? He kept up the ruse of the Jester to fool everyone into meeting at the same central area and weakening each other so he could swoop in and capitalize on a situation at the last minute. So why is he still running around as the Jester? The ruse is over. In fact, at the beginning of this level, we watched a cutscene of him in the underworld drawing Sparta's sword for the first time, so how is he also here? Anyways, very little changes with this fight compared to the last one. His movesets are still the same for the most part, except now that I have access to Air Trick, I can close gaps on him much easier than before. I gotta say that all of these movement mechanics from Trickster really do feel like a power increase, even though they're actually technically not increasing my DPS by any percentage amounts. When he's at about 20% health, he spawns this comical yet horribly sad-looking moon ball thing, and then he bounces around on it. Now, I wasn't exactly sure how to approach this at first, but I learned that full frontal really was the best approach. I was able to stay glued to him pretty well with my Trickster abilities and Beowulf's diagonal kick. Once the Jester's defeated for the second time, he falls down on the ground, throws a little temper tantrum, and smacks his ass a bunch of times before disappearing. I load out into the tri-sealed antechamber and through the only doorway available, which locks me into this fight on my way out. I have no recollection of which one of these doorways is correct, so I wing it. Now, this cutscene makes this room look really dangerous, but for someone of my skill level, it is. I reach the balcony, bounce on this glowy thing, collect a bunch of red orbs and some archways, and get trapped inside of another room with a new enemy type. These things look badass, and have some of the most complicated movesets to counter, but to be honest, I never really struggle with these things. I'm always dodging around like a maniac with my Trickster abilities, and it always just kind of works out. Like, I never have to dodge their attacks, I just kind of do it automatically, if that makes sense. Anyways, defeating all of them unlocks the door. I head through it into the moonlit mile balcony outside, and progress up the spiral ramp towards the top of the tower.
I know why you're here. You're here to ask me some questions. Well, too bad. I've already answered them myself. I don't need you anymore. Come on, poser.
Alright, so now I'm fighting a version of myself, and he's pretty good, and I'm dead. No, I don't want to use the gold orb, thank you, game. So this shadow thing seems to be invulnerable to all of my attacks, which means there's some kind of mechanic that I'm currently missing. I begin speculating that it could be the mirrors, or magnets. I don't really understand what magnets do, so that's probably what it is. After what ends up being an embarrassing amount of time, I realize that I can smack these circular metal shutters around the room, which shines light on the area. He doesn't seem to be able to enter these areas that are lit up, so at the very least it's a reprieve from the constant damage. After all the shutters are opened, he sheds his shadowy demon form and becomes available to attack for a short time. This first time was a bit of a botch though, because one of the lights went out too quick and I couldn't take advantage of the situation fast enough, but at least now I know what to do. Run around the room hitting all of the shutters, then rush him for some big boy DPS before he resets all the shutters again. Despite this fight seeming incredibly difficult in the beginning, it actually ends up being insanely easy once I figured out the mechanics.
Thought I lost my shadow for a sec.
Defeating this thing awards me the Doppelganger fighting style. While it sounds really cool and interesting to use, I'm so late in the game at this point that I just can't justify switching over. I head through the portal, up the ramp towards the top of the tower, and end the mission with a letter grade of B.
Well then, let's wrap up this crazy party, shall we? Gotta clean up the mess Father left behind.
Before Mission 18 begins, I purchase Air Hike for Beowulf and a large Vital Star. I load into an area named the Unsacred Hellgate, which is this pretty cool, almost angelic-looking corridor. I bounce around for a few minutes looking for secrets before proceeding over the top of this bridge that built itself as I walk across it. This is a pretty sweet effect, I'm not gonna lie. I jump through a shimmering portal at the end, and I'm on a chessboard. Okay. Well, I guess that all those chess pieces finally make sense. All of the pieces seem to move according to how they actually would in a game of chess. I reasoned that letting one of these pawns reach the other side of the board might trigger some kind of environmental trap or reset the level, so I prioritized killing them first, but ultimately discovered that it really doesn't matter. They can reach the other side and nothing notable happens, although the queen is not to be fucked with. Anyways, long story short, I get my ass kicked on my first attempt, but on the second attempt I go on an absolute warpath wiping these things out and successfully open up the portal. This puts me on the road to despair, which is ominous as hell, but I ain't scared. I'm half demon. Jesus Christ, did I just get smited? I guess that's one bad thing about being a demon. No, I don't want to use the gold orb! The second time around goes much smoother, and I load through this next portal, which places me in this strange room with stairs going every which direction and defying all laws of gravity. Wait a second, I feel like I've seen this before.
Going up the stairs and going down the stairs and going up the stairs and going down the stairs and going up the sideways stairs.
Traversing this place is a bit disorienting and I have no idea where I'm going, so I just load through the first door I come across. This puts me back in the chamber with a giant floating worm thing, and I'm basically just refighting it. Why? Why am I fighting the same boss a second time when I already killed it? Anyways, this fight actually goes much smoother and faster than it did the first time, so at the very least this is a good way of highlighting how my skills as a player have improved and how Dante's power has grown since earlier in the game. Upon leaving through the portal, I'm put back on the set of Family Guy and watch a single yellow light display on the board in front of me. Wait a second, please for the love of God tell me I don't have to refight every single boss in this game in order to proceed. If that's the case, then this is the laziest game design I've ever seen. Oh, god damn it! I end up beating the two swordsmen on my first attempt, but I did have to use that large vital star that I purchased to make it through the fight. Loading through the portal lights up the green light on the board, and it's sure looking like I have to kill every boss in the game. I don't know which is harder, defeating bosses or just navigating this room in general. The third boss I encounter is the Quicksilver Horse. Now I felt I did a pretty good job the first time that I fought him, but this time around I get my ass kicked. No, I don't want to use the gold orb! Since I'm reasonably certain the order of boss fights doesn't matter, I just load through the first portal I see, which happens to be the Cerberus fight. Now I struggled like crazy with this fight the first time, so I'm really interested to see just how much I've improved since then. Fine, I'll use the gold orb. I defeat Cerberus again, technically on my first attempt, and load through the portal. The board in front of me shows the blue light illuminate and connect to the other two lights. I'm not really sure what this means, so I just continue through the next closest door, which happens to be the sexy vampire lady. Long story short, I die. Upon reloading, I decide that I really don't feel like fighting her again this second, so I go to the next door. This puts me back in the small area with the weird angelic beast thing that Beowulf came from. Now I'm bobbing and weaving, I'm twisting and turning, I'm floating like a butterfly, stinging like a bee, and I'm fucking dead. On my second attempt, I'm a living vessel of archery practice for his dozens of angelic feathers. Jesus Christ, can I move? The third attempt goes much smoother though, and I do a happy dance at the end afterwards to assert my dominance. Now much to my surprise, this was the last boss that I have to kill in order to progress. Upon loading through the portal out here, I watch the board illuminate the white light and connect all four of the lights together, which spawns a portal nearby. I cannot tell you how overjoyed I am that I don't have to refight every remaining boss, thank God! The mission ends with a C, and I don't give a shit. Before the mission begins, I purchased the final upgrade for the Spiral. Now, full disclosure up front, I've actually attempted this mission 4 times before and failed miserably every single time. Not because of the difficulty, but because I quite frankly have no fucking clue where to go or what to do. I spent literal hours running around trying to discover how to progress, and eventually just ended up looking it up online because I couldn't figure it out. I'll explain as I go to keep things moving. The game tosses me into this small, hellish-looking dimension with toppled statues all around me. Those weird-looking white and red demons with size are back, but just like before, they actually go down pretty easy. I'm not sure if my trickster fighting style just happens to work exceptionally well versus these things or what, but I feel like they should be tougher to defeat. After they're all dead, another portal spawns, taking me out of here and placing me into a small circular room full of mirrors. Oh god, not a room full of mirrors!
God, you kidding me? What?
Why would you shoot a mirror?
So all of the enemies in this room are invulnerable until I do something. My immediate presumption is to break all of the mirrors in a room, but only certain mirrors are active at any given time. It took me an embarrassing amount of time to figure this out on my previous 4 attempts, but that's not actually what held me up in the end. Now that I know what I do, this section actually goes by pretty quickly and another portal spawns. The next room is this trippy suspended platform with an hourglass in the center of the area. The hourglass is constantly draining sand, which tells me that I have to kill these enemies quickly or else...
you're gonna have a bad time!
I finish killing all of the enemies with a nick of time left and loot the Samsara, which is this thing for a thing. Another portal spawns on the far side of the area and loads me back onto the set of Family Guy.
Going up the stairs and going down the stairs.
This is where things went terribly south for me. You see, there's no further guidance on where I should go or what I should do. I have this new item that I looted, and the game is funneling me back towards all of the previous areas that I've already completed. If you've watched this video up until this point, then you would know that this isn't unusual for the game at all. In fact, it loves backtracking. It's kind of its thing. Given that the cutscene that just played prior to the mission starting foreshadowed a figure leaving the library that Lady was in, I made the assumption that that's where I should probably head to. During this whole misguided escapade, I'm fighting loads of enemies, looting red orbs, and even finding blue orb fragments that I overlooked from before. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary except that I was completely, utterly, totally lost, and none of the routes I thought should work ever did. So where do I actually have to go? Well, apparently, when I'm dumped back into this boss fight hub, I'm supposed to jump back through the portal that I just came out of. This puts me back into the Room of the Fallen Ones, where I can then turn around and jump back through the portal I just came through into the Nirvana of Illusions. Then I can walk over to this golden statue against the wall, use the Samsara, and change the portal behind me to take me onto an alternative section of the end of the line to proceed. I can't tell you how fucking stupid this is, and how frustrating it was to explore the entirety of the game looking for a way to proceed when this was the solution. I mean, who in the right mind would have thought to progress through this series of events this way? I'd like to think I'm a decent puzzle solver, but god damn, this was Inception's level of intertwining realms that I wasn't prepared for. Anyways, cutscene.
It's like staring into a backed-up toilet. Why do you always stick your nose in other families' business? Come on, dude. Don't you have any hobbies? My father wasn't so hideous. Can't you tell by looking at me? Anyway, that shape suits you better. Let's begin the main event.
So now is the showdown with Lady's dad, and let's just say that he underwent a Joan Rivers level of plastic surgery. Melee is definitely my biggest DPS dealer here, but it's pretty dangerous since his attacks are sporadic and have pretty big AoEs. At certain intervals during the fight, he slowly sinks into the ground and spawns a bunch of these little horned blob things. My dual swords aren't terrible for taking these things out in droves, but I struggle like crazy at not taking boatloads of damage during these stages. No matter how much damage I deal or how fast I dodge, one of them always seems to clip me and whittles down my health. For the most part though, that's how this fight progresses. Meleeing him when he shows his stupid ugly blob face, get my ass kicked by AoE, then fight all the little blob things and get my ass kicked by constant damage. Needless to say, I fail this fight on my first attempt. The second time around though, I managed to get him to half health and trigger a cutscene.
I've come to retrieve my power. You can't handle it.
Look at you, making a big dramatic entrance and stealing my spotlight.
What? You don't possibly believe that he deserves to be our main event now, do you?
Now that you mention it, you're right.
You should come to realize you cannot control the power of Sparta.
You're wasting your time, buddy. I think he needs to learn the hard way.
So now the mechanics of the fight have changed. Drastically. Dante and Virgil have teamed up to take down the gelatinous Mr. Clean, and the fight structure has been modified, to say the least. My trickster dodges have been completely swapped for summoning Virgil to my side, and my Devil Trigger form has been entirely disabled. This is very bad. Not only does summoning Virgil seem to do absolutely nothing for me combat-wise, my main source of healing restoration, that being Devil Trigger, is gone. Remember those swarms of horned blob things that have been whittling me down with dodges and heals? Yeah, they're a lot harder now. I have zero idea how I managed to make it through the first wave of these things, but that luck very quickly runs out with the second. And the third, and the fourth, and I've lost count. The point is, this fight is absolutely brutal, and I don't know how to overcome it. After countless attempts, I decide to swap out Ebony and Ivory for the Kalina Ann, remembering that earlier in the story, Lady seemed pretty confident that I was going to need it. In retrospect, that might have been a blatant hint telling me, hey idiot, you're gonna need to use this. Against the boss, it's pretty lackluster, but against the horned blob things, oh my sweet Jesus, it's fucking awesome! Its AoE takes out multiple of these things at a time, and if I coordinate it correctly, I can avoid most of their attacks between shots. Now, I won't falsely claim that this made the fight easy and that I didn't take boatloads of damage still, but it did make the fight feasible and much less stressful. Literally after my first attempt with the Kalina Ann, I successfully take down Lady's dad with Virgil and trigger a cutscene.
I'll try it your way for once.
Remember what we used to say? Jackpot.
Not very classy for someone's dying words.
The mission ends with a B for better than expected.
How could I? I shall become a god. No one here can stop me.
What a surprise. Here I was looking for you, and lo and behold, you come to me.
Mary.
Don't ever call me that again. My mother was the only one who could say my name.
Wait. Please. Do you really want to shoot me? Can you shoot me? Your own father? What have I done wrong? Even the heroic Sparta sacrificed a woman so that he could become a legend. I wish to be a god! And I sacrificed one miserable human being for that reason. That is all. Was that really so awful? I have some unfinished business to take care of. Help me, Mary.
Mary died a long time ago. My name is Lady. Goodbye, Father.
No!
I thought I wasn't gonna cry.
Before Mission 20 begins, I swap out Kalina Ann for Ebony and Ivory again. It served me extremely well in that last fight, but I felt that it might not do me much good versus Virgil.
Give that to me.
No way. You got your own.
Well, I want yours too.
What are you gonna do with all that power, huh? No matter how hard you try, you're never gonna be like Father.
We're wasting time!
We are the sons of Sparta. Within each of us flows his blood. But more importantly, his soul! And now, my soul is saying it wants to stop you!
Okay, that line was a bit cringe, but I'm still invested.
Unfortunately, our souls are at odds, brother. I need more power.
And we're supposed to be twins.
Twins. Right.
So now is the final fight against our brother Virgil. Most of his attacks and fighting style remain the same from the previous 2 encounters, with the addition of a few new abilities. Oh yeah, and he's way faster and hits like a fucking truck. I actually get lured into a false set of confidence on this first attempt. I luck out pretty early on and catch him between some animations, which allows me to get in a lot of DPS. Then he goes on an absolute train and takes me down to half health in a few seconds. I know I said this earlier in the video, but this is the best analogy that I have. Fighting Virgil is honestly like split-screen battling a middle school friend of yours who is way better at the game than you in every way. Did you guys ever have that one friend that just absolutely mastered a fighting game and would only play that game because they could destroy you? Or they always chose that overpowered character that either had a hitbox advantage or one spammable that couldn't be avoided? That's Virgil. Virgil is your middle school friend's character of choice. I mean, just look how impossible he is to make miss, or even just to get gap on. I'm pulling out every single trickster, teleport, and dodge I have at my disposal, and it just doesn't matter. He can and will find a way to stab me through the heart. Again, and again, and again, and again, and again, and again, and this time with ranged, and again, and again, and again, and look, dude, that's a bit overkill, I died a long time ago, and again, and again, and again, and again, and not even remotely close this time, and again, and even when I have him down to a fraction of health, he kills me again, and again, and again, and again, but finally, after countless aggravating deaths at the hands of Virgil, I stroll through his purple minefields of spinny swords and fire a barrage of ammunition right into his stupid fucking face!
Am I being defeated?
What's wrong? Is that all you got? Come on, get up. You can do better than that.
The human world is closing, Dante. Because the amulets have been separated.
Let's finish this, Virgil. I have to stop you. Even if that means killing you.
No one can have this, Dante. It's mine. It belongs to a son of Sparta. Leave me and go, if you don't want to be trapped in the demon world. I'm staying. This place was our father's home.
What an ordeal. You're still here.
I need that back.
No late charges, I hope?
I'll think about it.
We should be fine for now. But I'm sure they'll be back soon. Very soon.
Are you crying?
It's only the rain.
The rain already stopped.
Devils never cry.
I see. Maybe somewhere out there, even a devil may cry when he loses a loved one. Don't you think?
Maybe.
By the way... looks like we're gonna be busy for a while.
Well, bring it on. I love this. This is what I live for! I'm absolutely crazy about it!
After the cutscenes ends, there's this cool playable outro sequence where Dante and Mary are battling demons as the credits roll. For the record, I killed 112 demons during this time period and got a sweet Steam achievement as a result. There's one final cutscene in the game that really ties everything together and bleeds seamlessly into the first title of the series.
Took care of all the remaining devils, and that was it? I still have a job to do that's far from done, which is to eliminate every last demon. I need to ensure that monsters like my father never come about again. And he promised to help me hunt down the demons, even though he's part one himself. But now I realize that there are humans as evil as any devil, as well as kind and compassionate demons in this universe. At least I've found one so-called devil who is able to shed tears for those he cares about. That's enough for me to believe in him.
Now I can start my business.
Oh, speaking of a kind devil, he finally decided on a name for his shop. It took him quite a while to pick one. Wanna know the name? Devil May Cry.
It'll be fun to fight with the Prince of Darkness. If my father did it, I should be able to do it too.
Mission 20 ends with a B, and I'm given a final report card for the entire game. It's nothing impressive, but for as hard as this game is, I'll take it. Completing the game on normal also unlocks a bunch of new game modes, playable characters, costumes, movies, and illustrations, which is a really cool reward for seeing things through until the end. So, with Devil May Cry 3 fully complete, I just want to take a few moments to give my final thoughts and opinions on it. Like I said in the beginning of this video, I came into this game with highly variable expectations. After the atrocious second title in this series, I reasoned that this game couldn't possibly be any worse, but I also figured that it might not be as good as the first title. All in all, I was pleasantly surprised and personally believe that DMC3 is an all-around better title than the first. It was able to maintain that dark, gothic art style of the first title without feeling bland or boring like the second. It capitalized on the technology of the time and used breakable structures, reflective surfaces, and particles to bring everything to life. Best of all, no fucking swimming like in the first game. Thank God they learned from that. The audio design is phenomenal, properly blending together eerie music and background ambience to create unique environments, clean sound effects and audio cues for immersion, or cranking out some pretty bangin' metal music during fights. The voice acting was really solid too, although some of Dante's lines throughout the game did feel a little bit cringy at times.
So, my mother's amulet is the key that unlocks the door to the demon world.
Honestly, I think the voice actor for Virgil killed it more than Dante, but that's just me. DMC3 took the combat mechanics of the previous two games and combined them into something so much better and seamless. Combat feels fluid, intuitive, and fun. I felt rewarded for pulling off stylish combos, and punished for careless button spam that typically never won in fights anyways. There was a little bit of jankiness with the targeting and some of the running animations, but all in all it was pretty smooth. There is a definite power gain throughout the entire game that's highlighted when you're forced to re-encounter previous bosses, but to be honest, the game never felt easy to me at any stage, so this power gain never came out as overpowered. The storyline of Devil May Cry 3 is probably its shining feature, though. The tug-of-war relationship between Virgil and Dante, and the backstory of their father Sparta, is just a really interesting and expansive story to tell. I love the dynamics and personality of all the characters. Sparta being this insanely powerful yet ultimately kind-hearted demon that saves humanity, and his two sons being the division of his personality traits. Virgil being the soft-spoken, power-hungry half, and Dante being the eccentric, childlike brother with a moral compass. Lady's character is also pretty badass, and I really enjoyed her character as a whole throughout, although her ability to stand toe-to-toe with these otherworldly beings was a bit far-fetched. Her dad made a fantastic villain in the game, but the whole jester demon side of him still confuses me.
It's time for your spanking, my dear.
Anyways, that about sums up my thoughts and opinions on the game. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Bunneh's Perspective. If you enjoyed this video, then please be sure to leave me a like down below, subscribe to the channel with notifications on so you can stay up to date on all of my latest content, join the Discord to meet all the other Woodland Bunnehs, and please keep leaving me comments because they warm my little Bunneh heart. A special thank you goes out to all of the Bunnehs that support me on Patreon. You guys are amazing, and if you would like to support the channel and the content that I create, you can now do so for as little as $1 a month. Thank you again so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.